We are live. Feels good to be live. I mean, generally speaking, but it really feels good to be live for a few good minutes. This is the first few good minutes since the holiday break. It was a nice holiday break, and I'm so glad that I have a break in travel because the last, I think it was, I think I did 8 trips in 6 weeks. Lots of great conferences. No complaints about that. But I tell you, living in the airport and on planes is no fun. But what is fun is a conversation I'm about to have. But before I jump into today's conversation with today's guest, this is the PPN Network. We got a lot of stuff going on, and I want to just give you a quick list of things. Let's see if I can do this right that we have going on. So, man, that actually worked. So good. So, tomorrow, this is cool. Paul Greenberg is doing his Talking Headless show. The name still throws me off a bit, but that's okay. He's Talking Headless. But he has two of my favorite people as his guest for tomorrow's show. Sandy Lowe, who is the person who I say just does it all when it comes to analyst relations and press relations and corporate communications for Zoho. She is a really good friend to both Paul and I. And also, another great friend is the gentleman right next to her. We call him the venerable Steve Gilmore. Steve Gilmore is the guy who I think he had the second ever podcast ever. Remember, Adam Curry was first, but Steve Gilmore and the Gilmore Gang was right behind him. Nip and tuck. I guess that means he was tucked. I'm not sure. But anyway, that's going to be a great show to have both Sandy and Steve on Talking Headless tomorrow at noon. And that's not all, folks. Yeah, I just sounded like a Bugs Bunny thing or something like that. Anyway, CRM Players this Thursday is going to be really fun because it's like a tradition unlike any other. I'm not talking about the Masters. I'm talking about the annual CRM Players visit for Alan Treffler, the CEO. Man, I'm cutting his face off too. That's really not good. I should try to move that around, but I'm afraid I might mess something up. But anyway, that is Alan Treffler. He's coming to join us as we do our 4th annual Road to Pega World, where Alan sits down with us and we get a chance to ask him anything because if you know Alan at all, you know he will tell you exactly where he stands on pretty much anything you ask him. So we are definitely looking forward to that. That's Thursday. Now, today, this is what I call the triple header day. So it's back to back to back. We just got finished The Crunch, which is another show on PBN. And Jeremy Cox, who is the host, had a really great conversation with Vijay Sundaram of Zoho talking about regenerative business. You got to check out the replay of that. There was some really good stuff going on in there. And after I get done with this show, I'll tell you about that in a minute. But 2 o'clock Eastern, Esteban Kolsky is coming up with Whispered Insights with Denise Holt, and they're going to be talking about the spatial web, and if it's time to start looking for new AI alternative models. So that's going to be really cool. Actually, I think the show that we're going to do kind of sets up that show, I think. So check that out. That's at 2 o'clock. Whispered Insights, Esteban Kolsky. And believe me, there's never any whispering going on that show. But anyway, we're going to be talking about what we're going to be talking about now, which is I'm going to go back to my one shot here because I want to be able to introduce our guest today. And I met Kathy Baxter, I guess it was about a month ago at Salesforce's Trailblazer. I always have an issue saying it because it used to be Trailhead DX, and now it's Trailblazer DX, I think. She's shaking her head, so I think I got that right. We had a chance to sit down, and believe me, I just had such a great conversation. I was like, I can't keep this kind of conversation to myself. I mean, I gotta bring her on so we can talk about responsible AI and all that goes into it and why it's important and all that stuff. So thankfully, we're able to do that now because I mean, she's doing me a huge favor because she's about to go off on leave and she's got all these things she has to do before that. So she is joining me today. And I just wanted to give her the proper title. Kathy Baxter is the principal architect, responsible AI in tech at Salesforce, but she's also a visiting AI fellow at the National Institute of Standards and Technology, otherwise known as NIST. I think that's what they call it. Oh, okay. So, Kathy, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate this.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be able to talk to you again.
Absolutely. And I was already commenting on, I just love that image of your background there. And your, I think you said over your shoulder is the Thames River. So that's pretty cool.
Over there. Yeah, I'm not lucky enough to be in the London office right now, but I can pretend that I'm there.
We can always pretend. We can pretend we're anywhere we want to be. But right now, we want to be talking about responsible AI. Because, I mean, first of all, everybody's been talking about AI for the last year and a half. I think particularly the generative AI variety. But there was AI before generative AI, right? I mean,
Oh,
there's
yes.
for years and years and years. And you have been involved in a number of fronts, in a number of areas, with helping to develop responsible AI. Um, and sometimes we kind of missed all the responsibility because of a lot of the excitement that people have for this, and apprehension that people also have. Sometimes it's even the same people who are as excited as they are apprehensive
Yeah.
about this. But maybe you could just, you know, talk to us a little bit about uh, what, in your determination, is responsible AI. And, if you want to be personal, or if you want to talk about it from a Salesforce perspective, or from an NIST perspective.
Yes, a few years back when a lot of companies were starting to create responsible AI or ethical AI or responsible innovation teams, everybody started creating their own set of principles for trusted AI. And a lot of the principles sound very same. The OECD came out with a set of principles, and you can give the different um, headers different names, but they're pretty similar in that you want to make sure that you are protecting human rights, data, and privacy. That your AI is secure from hackers and bad actors. It is accountable and transparent to others, that it is sustainable. This is the only planet, at least for right now, that we have to live on. And generative AI in particular is just voracious in terms of the carbon and water that is necessary to fuel it. Not just data, but the resources on our planet. And so we need to ensure that we are creating AI that really is empowering to everybody, not just the companies that are selling it. But we want society to be better off as a result of the technology existing than if it didn't.
Can you explain a little bit about the AI framework that the National Institute of Standards and Technology came up with?
Yes. So the NIST AI risk management framework is a set of questions mapped around the stages of the development life cycle, with governance being at the center of it. It doesn't, unlike something like the EU AI Act that identifies a set of prohibited or high risk or low risk, it doesn't categorize. It doesn't tell you if you do this, you must do this other thing. Instead, it asks a series of questions. Thank you. That uh, helps you identify what are the processes that we should be doing along the way. And it's not expected that every organization is going to be able to do everything in that list. So for the first version that was created, in the heyday of predictive AI, there are 76 different actions. Some organizations are going to be much better, perhaps, at mapping or measuring than another company. even within a single large global organization, if you've got multiple groups creating AI, each of those groups might be at different places on this map. Some may be a lot better at the governance stage. And so it's about, you want to use these, this, not a checklist, but this list of processes to ask yourself questions. Could we do this? How might we do this other thing instead? So it's almost like a roadmap to help you create better processes along the way.
I was reading through one of the articles that you were responsible for around this whole area, and one of these, let me see if I can pop this up. Just this one statement that really caught my attention. I'm going to read it, and maybe you could go into a little bit more. AI risk management is a key component of the responsible development and use of AI systems. Can you kind of flesh that out a little bit for us?
Yes, so you need to understand what the risks are in order to manage them. If you are only thinking about what are the potential benefits and who am I trying to help, like what are the outcomes, but you don't think about what are all of the potential risks that come with it, then you can't possibly have a responsible system. There are so many different individuals that end up getting impacted by an AI system. And so how do we think about, in terms of for enterprise CRM, we have to think about not just the Salesforce administrator at each of these companies that are setting up the system. How do we give them the tools to know how this technology is being used? How do we make sure that it works within the guidelines and the policies of that company? You have to think about the customer service rep that then is going to be the end user that's engaging with that AI. And then you have to think about, in our case, our customer's customer. Who is that person that's on the other end of the phone, that's interacting with customer service? You need to think about everybody in the ecosystem that is being impacted by this technology in order to ensure that it truly is responsible end to end.
I'm going to pop this another little thing up here because this little statement, it says that these AI systems, pretty much all technology kind of systems, have certain risks to it, but AI systems have some unique risks, as is stated here. What are some of those unique risks that come with AI systems?
Yes, and generative AI, it adds and a unique set of risks on top of what the traditional predictive AI has been. And so with automation, any type of automation that you put in, you can have a set of rules. Even if you're using just if this, then that kind of statements, there's a potential for risk that the rule can be making a bad decision, and the automation can spread the impact of that far and wide. If you don't understand how the AI system is working in the first place, you don't have some very clear cut if this, then that rules, then you lack the explainability, you lack the interpretability to know why is this doing something bad, and therefore how do I fix it? You need to have the tools in place to understand, is this recommendation that's being made, or is this piece of content that's being generated, is it accurate? Is it safe and secure? Is it fair and trustworthy?
And I'm looking. I thank you for sending me all these great little things here, because I'm looking at this other piece here around. I'll make this bigger. We always think about the harm to people, of course, first and foremost, and even harm to an organization. But talk about it's not just people and organizations, but it's a whole ecosystems that are
Yes.
threatened if we're not approaching this responsibly, right?
Absolutely. When we think about harms to people, oftentimes you might think about just the individual, so the person that's on the other phone, on the other end of the phone. But you can end up causing harm to entire groups or communities when there is discrimination against that population. So thinking about facial recognition technology that is less accurate for people with darker skin, they end up getting erroneously identified and then arrested. In terms of societal impacts, with the proliferation of deep fake technology, it makes it so easy to spread mis and disinformation that seems so realistic. It's hard for anyone to know, what can I even trust anymore? You end up creating what's called the liar's dividend, where you just don't know anymore, any piece of information that is shared with you, is it trustworthy or not? And so we have to think about the entire end-to-end ecosystem. We have to think about what are the impacts on the business if your AI is wrong. So thinking about some of the very well-known now chatbot examples of an airline having to honor a refund because the chatbot said that was the case, or selling a car for $1. If your AI is going to make inaccurate recommendations or statements, then as the business, you're going to have to stand by that. And then thinking about the broader ecosystem and how does it impact jobs and finances and beyond. The repercussions have a massive ripple effect.
And responsible AI is also inclusive AI, right? I mean, you got to have
Yes.
perspectives and opinions that are going into these systems. You gotta have enough and a lot that are representative of not just one thing, but all things, right?
Absolutely. When we are thinking about expanding our AI into different languages and regions, it's not enough to be able to say that this particular feature works in French or in Spanish. We need to make sure that we are getting training data that is from many different Spanish speaking regions, because the dialects and grammars and vernacular of Spanish as spoken in Spain versus Argentina versus Mexico or the US is going to be different. So, with our toxicity detector, we can't have just, yeah, the translation and the training data coming from that one region, because humans are unfortunately immensely creative when it comes to saying, coming up with new terrible racial slurs and hate language. And so again, if we want to say that this particular feature works in Spanish, then we need to make sure that we're getting a ton of data coming in from all of those different regions so that it recognizes how people are speaking Spanish in that region, and it recognizes potentially harmful language in that language and region and dialect.
I want to also, I just keep going back to this, all these great visuals here. Now, responsibility is one of the trusted AI principles here, and I got this from one of the Salesforce presentations. But what impact does responsibility have on these other AI principles?
I mean, first and foremost, we are always thinking about, as we're doing this work, how are we safeguarding human rights and protecting our customers' data? And that is part and parcel with us starting off asking, should we do this, not can we do this? We never go in automatically with the assumption that yes, this is something that we are going to build. We first ask, should we be building this? And so we identify the potential benefits and risks and have an entire exercise that is going into looking at those potential unintended consequences and thinking about what those downstream events are. And then the other principles then are all in service of that, being accountable to our customers, being transparent. Why is this AI making the recommendation that it is? So for example, in our Service Cloud email reply recommendations feature, we have a cite sources link. So if there's a customer service agent that sees the AI has recommended a particular answer to a customer's question and they're like, ew, that doesn't sound quite right, then they can click on the cite sources link and it will take them to the knowledge articles that the Salesforce administrator at their company grounded the model in. It's that grounding, also known as RAG, retrieval augmented generation, is so important to making sure that the AI is accurate. I think most people have heard about AI hallucinating. We like to talk about it confabulating, but that is so confabulation. It's a
That
lovely
sounds
term.
great. First of all, it just flows right off the tongue, by the way.
Yes, it does. It's magical. But it's where the AI generates content that is not based on actual fact. It may sound incredibly plausible, but it's not actually correct. And so when you're grounding the model, you tell the model, look at these 100, 1,000, however many knowledge articles you have. Look for the answer in there. Don't go back to the training data that was scraped from the web in 2021 or whatnot. You know, when we're building our models, we're not scraping the web, but some other models have previously. So by grounding it in the customer's knowledge articles or any other data source that they have, you can be sure that when the customer asks a question of, how do I reset my router, that it is specific to your brand and model and not just routers generically based on all of the information off of the web. And so being, transparent and accountable helps ensure that.
So NIST put out the AI framework, and I think it's been out for a couple of years, right? I think. But then more recently, they put out something that I think is called the generative AI profile, kind of sits on
Yes.
top of that. Could you explain that a little bit?
Yes. So right now is an open comment period. So everybody who wants to can hop on in. You can do a search for the NIST AI Risk Management Framework Generative AI Profile. Again, rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? You can do a search for that, find the document, and it's an open comment period for anybody because this is a government entity, and so any member of the public can comment on it. And it's built on the existing framework, and it has 466 action items. So these are recommended actions that you can take that are specific to generative AI. So doing things like recommending that you ground the model in the customer's data, recommending that you do certain tests to be able to see, does your model leak the underlying training data? This is a unique risk to generative AI compared to predictive AI. And so it goes through and it just gives literally a ton of different recommended actions that an organization can take. You don't have to know, oh, here are all the things that I should be doing from a cybersecurity perspective. It lists different actions that you can take. So provides quite a bit of very detailed guidance.
All right, Kathy. Between the confabulations in the 400 action articles on this profile, where should a company start that wants to do AI and Gen AI but do it in a responsible manner, in a way that they don't have to stay up at night wondering if this goes out, this will come back.
Exactly. I think there's been so much hype that AI is this magical thing for CEOs or boards or companies that really want to slash their headcount. We don't need human beings to do this work anymore. We can, get rid of 75% of our customer support agents because now chatbots can answer all of the questions. When you jump in thinking that AI is good enough to entirely replace humans at this point, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. AI is very, very powerful, and it can be an incredible assistant to you, but it's not good enough to entirely replace humans at this point. See earlier discussion about chatbots and refunds and selling cars for $1. And so instead, identify those things that can help lift the tedious tasks, that can get rid of the work that is not adding benefit. I love to give the example of code generation. You're not going to, cut the number of developers at your company in half because of these code generation tools. What you're going to do is take your already really highly skilled developers, and a lot of times when they're starting a new program, everybody just goes to an older program where they do search on the web and they get block code and they copy and paste it. There's tons of programs out there that's built on the exact same block code. Rather than going out, finding that block code, copy, pasting, putting it in, click a button, boom, there it is. And then that really low lying work that does not take actual skill, get rid of that. And now you've got the more talented developer that you hired and paid those big bucks for to do the more complicated work. Or for really junior novice developers, they tend to write very bloated code. It's less performant. It's probably going to be a lot more buggy. If you can have that tool help reduce some of that bloat, you're going to reduce your cost to serve. It's going to be more performant. Hopefully, you've got a lot less bugs that your QA team is going to have to go through and try and resolve. So, looking for those opportunities to supercharge your employees rather than just jumping right in and trying to find all the places where you can replace your employees, you're just going to be set up for better success with the former than the latter.
So that's how you should go about it. How do you sell it? I mean, now to me, I think I heard you kind of selling it already when you say it keeps you from selling cars for $1, or it keeps you from doing nonsensical stuff that you never would do, but gets done, somehow. I'm assuming that's how you sell it. But I mean, are people buying the selling at this point?
Yes, I think the way we monetize our products, we do not sell our customers data. We also don't gamify our experiences to keep you in our product as long as possible. We're productivity software. It's about getting in, getting your job done, and getting out. And so, because one of our primary core value is trust, and our second is customer success, customers have learned to value that when we make a recommendation, it is about helping companies do better. It's not just about, yes, here's this magical thing that's going to all of a sudden help you cut your employee base in half. We have a new campaign that we are sharing resources with our customers called Humans at the Helm, similar to Humans at the Loop that you might have heard of before, where the humans in the loop implies that the AI is making all of the decisions, and you're just kind of like, hey, human, here's what I'm doing. Humans at the helm instead is about, no, the human is in the driver's seat, and the AI is the assistant to the human. And that means we need to give the humans all of the information to know if they can trust what the AI is doing. And so, with all of these things that we are providing to our customers, we want them to know that we are doing this, we are building this software in a way, and we are implementing it in a way that helps them remain in control and know what the AI is doing. Including, again, grounding the data in your own models so that it really is accurate to your company.
Kathy, I remember when like responsibility didn't change much. You knew what you needed to do to be responsible. But with the Gen AI stuff, this is a fast moving target.
Yes.
How difficult is it to stay responsible? You could be like responsible today, and then something happens with the technology, and then by tonight you might be irresponsible. How much of a challenge is this going to be for folks?
This is huge. This is really, really huge. If a company does not have even a single AI ethicist, I mean, you really need a team at this point of individuals with more specific skill sets. For example, in our Office of Ethical and Humane Use, we have a computational linguist. And they are working on bias and all the categories of bias. This is a really hard problem. A lot of people had a heyday with the quote unquote woke AI and multiple image generators, not just the one that really got pounded for it, but there were multiple AI image generators that created images that were not historically relevant. And it was because, when you go to these image generators and you ask for an image of a doctor, it would tend to only give you a whole bunch of images of white dudes in coats. Like that's not the reality. That's not a reality that we want to persist. But being able to find a way that you balance inclusiveness, to the earlier question that you asked, with being able to observe historical context. These things are really, really hard. Bias is subjective. A single piece of content, a single statement that I make, I could think is factual and is completely fair, and you may say is completely unfair and therefore inaccurate. So this work is really, really difficult. So you need people with these kinds of specialized skills to figure out, how do we do this at scale instead of just these one-off solving problems. You can't do it as a one-off. It has to be done at scale.
Yeah, this is at scale and at speed. I'm guessing to go along, because that's just
Yes,
the world we live in right now, right? So,
absolutely.
Kathy, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking time to talk about this with me. And for those who are interested in learning more, where could they go?
They can go to Salesforce Trusted AI. I don't have a shrink link or anything like that to share with you at the moment, but if people just simply do a search for Salesforce Trusted AI, you're going to find us.
Awesome. Well, Kathy, thank you again, and enjoy your time off. It
Thank
sounds
you.
like you have you've been doing a lot, so you definitely should take a little break. And
Thank you
thank
so much.
absolutely, and thanks to everybody that was watching. And also remember, double header tomorrow with Talking Headless and EWPK, and then Thursday, Alan Treffler, Road to Pega World. So we'll see you then.